As diabetics, how much fiber per day is considered healthy? Is 10 grams good enough? How about 30? What about 50 grams per day? Does the kind of fiber even matter? Today, you will not only know the flawed sciences behind the recommendations, but the kind of artificial fiber that caused my type 1 diabetes in the very first place. But before we begin, let me welcome all of you resilient diabetics out there. This is the channel we turn ordinary, struggling diabetics into extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you are brand new to this channel, I welcome you. My name is Sampat, and I did become an insulin-dependent diabetic a little over 6 years ago due to an autoimmune attack which caused the destruction of my pancreas. So not only am I a diabetic just like you, where we will be walking that walk and talking that talk together, but I do also have a University of Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition dietetics, and that does come in very handy in discussing all the intricacies of being a diabetic. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, followed by the gray notification bell. Then choose turn on all notifications if you want to be notified when the next Resilient Diabetic video has been published. As with all of my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, please always consult your physician. According to our beloved American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association, they recommend diabetics like you and I consume around 25 to 50 grams of fiber daily. So first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, where did they get those numbers from? Second, why does it matter to us diabetics? And third, who benefits the most from those recommendations? The first thing you should know, the vast amounts of knowledge we've accumulated on fiber are from what's called observational studies. These studies, which are majorly done in the nutritional sciences, are pretty much the worst to trust and are usually very unreliable. For example, one study says patients with diabetes who consumes 50 grams a day of fiber substantially lowers their blood sugar levels. Well, how much is substantial? Well, if you look clearly in the studies, it's around 10% more than those who consumed 24 grams a day. So, if your blood sugars were on average 150 milligrams deciliter with an A1C of around 6.4, that will only move your A1C to around a 6.1. Some of our diabetic experts may say that is great, but today I will explain why this is nothing more than a pile of poo-poo. Excuse the pun, but you will understand why in just a few minutes. Dietary fiber, as most of you know, is part of the whole plant foods the body cannot break down and digest. Technically, fiber is a carbohydrate, but unlike other carbs like starches and sugars, it is not absorbed into the body and passes through without causing a rise in blood sugars. So in this regard, it is heavily pushed on us diabetics. But the Get More Fiber story is plagued with a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding. Where did this all begin and why? And as they say, follow the money and you will get closer to the truth. The story on our love for fiber began in and around the 1960s to 70s with a missionary surgeon by the name of Dennis Burkitt. On one of his return trips, Dr. Burkitt compared the patterns of diseases found in African hospitals with those found in Western hospitals. He noted the Western diet high in what we call refined foods, that is, white breads, scones, pastas, produced dry, small bowel movements. The Africans who ate off the land, hunted for game, dug in the dirt for tubers, ate berries, so they had a diet full of leaves, plants, nuts, seeds, had larger bowel movements. The Africans had none of the Western gastrointestinal diseases like hemorrhoids, constipation, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, bowel obstruction, diverculitis, colon cancer, or even stomach ulcers. Certain African tribes had virtually no diseases at all. He then went on to propose a radical view on the role of fiber in human health. He concluded that many of the Western diseases which were rare in Africa were the result of diet and lifestyle. He then wrote a book, Don't Forget Fiber in the Diet, which became an international bestseller. His famous quote, "America is a constipated nation. If you pass small stools, you will have large hospitals." So I kindly refer to him as the poop doctor. Based on his observations, the lower incidence of gastrointestinal diseases, colon cancer, heart disease was because of the high fiber intake. He linked the indigestible roughage fiber the Western world was removing from their diets due to food processing was the missing link providing the additional benefits to the native tribesmen. It must be also noted, Dr. Burkitt also conveniently withheld research on the African tribes' true intake of fiber and their heavy intake of both saturated fats and animal protein, while also experiencing low cancer and low heart disease rates too. So let's get deep into where things went wrong. Burkitt's theory on dietary fiber was an already established hypothesis from the research on refined carbohydrates, white flour, and sugars performed by a man by the name of Dr. Peter Cleve. His theory was called the saccharin disease. Dr. Cleve believed, and rightfully so, that the overconsumption of refined grains, white flour, and sugar were the cause of high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and many of the other ailments here in the Western world. What we now refer as to hyperinsulinemia. Somebody got this right even back then. Can I get an amen? What were the overriding differences between both men? One believed the overconsumption of carbohydrates, especially the processed carbohydrates, were the problem, while the other's theory was to eat foods in their whole form, regardless of the source and the amounts of sugars in them. The cereal industry caught wind, and guess what they did? Levered Dr. Burkitt's view on fiber. If you've watched the episode Diabetic Snacks, then you already know about the Journal of the American Medical Association, or the JAMA's, complete and scathing exposure of our esteemed nutritional experts and thus our nutritional guidelines. I'll put a link in the description box below if you missed that episode. The JAMA provided hard evidence of bribery that's been going on since the 1960s to blame dietary fats, i.e. saturated fats, instead of carbohydrates for heart disease, obesity, and diabetes. Food manufacturers, which the article directly mentioned, like Nestle, General Mills, as bribing researchers and all of our institutions and organizations to continually blame saturated fats as the culprit. You can see how easily the food manufacturers could manipulate our guideline requirements for fiber, especially the cereal-based fiber manufacturers, who were and are in control of most of these poorly done observational studies. The more fiber the studies recommend, the more cereal they can sell. The reason Dr. Burkitt's theory caught on and Dr. Cleve's was forgotten was simple. One theory could be monetized to make billions. The other could not. In fact, the Food and Drug Administration in 1993 approved claims that low-fat diets rich in fiber-containing grain products may reduce the risk of certain cancers, allowing food manufacturers to advertise these properties on the sides of cereal boxes. The agency did recently announce it would not permit any dietary supplement manufacturer to make any more direct claims that fiber can reduce the risk of colon cancer in light of all the current evidence. Now, I want you to objectively notice what was not in the diet of the native tribesmen: grains and cereals. The fiber that comes from grains and cereals is a different kind of fiber. It is what's known as cellulose. Yes, The same cellulose found in wood and sawdust. That's what we're eating. No different, just cleverly remarketed. Good research has now shown that grains in particular, processed or not, provides no differences in disease risk or deliver any better sugar response. They also demonstrated there was no significant reductions in body fat or other risk factors of metabolic syndrome. Why? They are inherently high in sugars or glucose. But let me be perfectly clear here and now. A high fiber intake from the right nutrient-dense foods can indeed yield considerable health benefits that you cannot obtain from such things as whole grains, breads, and cereals. The real key is to focus in on prebiotic fibers from whole foods. Get this kind of fiber in sufficient quantities, and you can pretty much enjoy higher HDL cholesterols, lower triglycerides, reduced insulin resistance, improvement in fatty liver, and a reduction of both blood pressure and body fat. So we have essentially exposed two things. Not all fibers are created equal and are good for you. And the amounts that have been recommended were to benefit one entity, the cereal and grain industry. So as diabetics, what should we focus on? These are what's called prebiotic fibers. In a nutshell, these are the undigestible plant fibers that feed the probiotics or the good bacteria already live inside the large intestine. The more food or prebiotics that the probiotics have to eat, the more efficiently these live bacteria work and the healthier your gut will be. Not only does the prebiotic fiber strengthen and significantly increase the diversity of good bacteria, it helps suppress the bad bacteria too, promoting an optimal environment for good digestive health. The cellulose found in grains and cereals is what's known as an inert fiber. It does not feed the good bacteria. It just passes straight through. But what has come to light is that these fibers are actually tearing and damaging the delicate lining of the intestines, causing inflammation in many, including myself. I have explained in previous episodes, my diabetes occurred as a result of an autoimmune attack which destroyed my pancreas, turning me into an insulin-dependent diabetic. The attack was actually brought on because of my consumption of the high-fiber cereals that I actually was consuming. Because of my nutritional degree, I was essentially brainwashed too and bought into the very high fiber intake theory. I have and always have been on a pretty low, well-controlled carbohydrate diet, but I was essentially using these extremely high fiber cereals to snack on to get into that upper recommended limit. Little did I know that was the worst mistake of my life, but what is done is done. Based on the latest research, how can I bring this all together for you that will aid in your understanding of fiber? We must first remember there are two kinds of fiber, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, which does include cellulose. But it is the cellulose from vegetables and vegetable stems is the one we want. We as diabetics, we need both. When you have both, good things occur. The insoluble fiber we eat forms a lattice work in the duodenum, which is the first section of the small intestine, and the soluble fiber plugs the holes in this lattice work. This then creates an impenetrable secondary barrier, because you have to remember the vast majority of digestion absorption occurs in the small intestine. This limits simple carbohydrate absorption in the duodenum, thus preventing the liver from receiving all the carbohydrates at once. This also reduces the glycemic rise in blood so that insulin response will be initially lower. If the carbohydrates aren't absorbed in the duodenum, it goes to the jejunum, the next section where microbes are, promoting microbial diversity and gut health. When we eat these soluble fibers found in whole plant foods, the bacteria in our gut ferment these fibers into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, acetate. The greater amounts of fiber consumed will lead to greater short-chain fatty acid production. These short-chain fatty acids have both anti-inflammatory effects and increase our sensitivity to insulin. So as diabetics, these naturally occurring soluble fibers are very important for feeding the friendly bacteria that live in our guts. So in essence, we get reduced insulin requirements, thus lowering our blood sugar levels and the reduction of other linked metabolic disorders that come with high circulating blood sugars like hypertension and heart disease. What about the insoluble fiber? Well, they act like little scrubbers on the inside of the colon to remove old and damaged cells, thus reducing the risk of colon cancer. But too much and the wrong kind, as we now know, can be disastrous for our gut health. So I bet you're probably wondering by now, am I a no carb or a low carb proponent? I am get the right kind of carb advocate. For example, what about the fibers in fruit? Do we exclude fruit? Now here's a reality check for you. How many fresh fruits would you need to eat throughout the day in order to obtain the 30 to 50 grams of fiber required? That would come to 5 apples, 3 pears, and 2 oranges. A small apple contains around 3 grams of fiber and 16 grams of sugar. A small pear, around 4 grams of fiber and 15 grams of sugar. And that small orange, 2 grams of fiber and around 11 grams of sugar respectively. These 10 small, and I'll repeat the word small, not medium or large fruits, will provide you with around 36 grams of fiber and a whopping 145 grams of straight sugars, or an equivalent of 10 tablespoons of plain table sugar. The ratio of sugars to fiber in many vegetables, especially your starchy vegetables, your cereals, your breads, and even your beans to some extent, on average is similar to fruits. Thus, no matter how hard you try to mix and match, you will have a hard time controlling your blood sugars just for the sake of getting fiber. So always remember, it is the high sugars and insulin levels that is causing the extreme damage to our bodies. Period. End of story. That is why I focus on providing adequate levels of non-starchy, above ground, and I'll repeat that again, above ground green leafy and cruciferous vegetables to feed our friendly bacteria. They are the key component for optimizing digestive health and maintaining the integrity of our gut lining through the production of these short chain fatty acids. Not to mention, they are the ones packed, and I do mean packed, with the vitamins, the minerals, and the antioxidants that we as diabetics desperately need. We do need to mix up these special vegetables to provide as much diversification of good bacteria in our digestive tract as possible. So do not eat the same things over and over again. Mix up your vegetables. Find the deep colored, nutrient dense, low calorie vegetables. But as diabetics, we always want to test and retest our blood sugars by using that glucose meter to determine our thresholds and limits. Our meters never lie. So I'll set up a playlist with you with more videos directly related to our diets. In the video, Can Diabetics Eat Bread? I will cover more on breads, cereals, and whole grains for you. Are they to also blame for the first known cause of diabetes in the ancient world and for the recent explosion in our modern world? What are the deadliest foods for diabetes and heart health? We will discuss one of, if not one of the worst foods diabetics can eat for heart health and life expectancy. Have we been conned by the biggest nutritional scandal of our lifetime? And how did this food make its way into our mainstream diet? This episode will undoubtedly shock and awe you. If you're on your desktop or laptop, use that mouse to click this upcoming box. If you're on your mobile device, I want you to tap that with your fingers. The first is the link to subscribe to this all-important channel. The second is the link to the playlist mentioned on diet. So, have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released weekly. Bye for now.